is World Menopause Awareness Month, and October 18th is World Menopause Awareness Day. In January of 2022, I started a group called the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind. And in the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, we would meet twice a month. At first, it was going to last for 6 months, and it carried on for another entire 6 months. So it was a whole year. The first part of the month, we would all come together and express what was going on. And I guess in a way it was a mastermind, and I was coaching. And then the second part of the month, I would bring in an expert. And we kicked off the whole series with human design. So how do we understand ourselves, and using human design as a tool? We also had this guest, which is Damaris. Damaris is a doctor of nursing practice. I don't know why I always fuck that title up, but DNP. And she is certified in family medicine and integrative medicine. Integrative medicine is where it's very close to something called functional medicine. So we're talking about using movement, breath, food as almost equal modalities to medicine. And this episode, you'll probably hear from the other mistresses, and you're also going to learn a ton about gut health. Now, just a quick disclaimer. Damaris is not your NP, and I'm not your NP. So if anything rings true for you, or you're like, ooh, I really want to get into that, please, please, please do not change anything in your life. Know that this is infotainment, and you want to speak to your own provider about your health and your health needs. Anyway, this is a step into the world of the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, and you're listening to it on Agelust. All right. So hit the little thing that says that you're okay with the recording, everyone. Okay. I pinned you. All right. So excited. And I just want to say that tonight is all about a small world in a certain way. So my name is Jessica. I'm Jessica Badonsky, Jolie Badonsky, and I am a nurse practitioner. I'm also the head mistress for the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, where we talk about redefining and reimagining what it means to go through this journey around our menstruationals, as I call them with my kids, menstruationals. Okay. And tonight, so each month we have a theme, and tonight we are going to be talking about menopause and the body. When we think about medicine, when we think about health in an integrative way. So some people say functional, some people say it's a little bit different, but tonight we have Dr. Damaris G. Now, here's the small world of this. I met Damaris through another nurse practitioner, but when I was talking to my partner, my husband said, I know her from RWB, I think, right? Because Dr. Damaris is not only a doctor of nursing practice, not only your family, right? I believe, right? Family medicine, but she's also a veteran, a war veteran. And that's how the world is kind of small. And so, and I have to say, on a personal note, one of the things I love about Damaris and about the work that she does, and just talking to her is, well, I love to listen to her talk because her voice is really soothing and fabulous, but also there's a real balance to how she approaches allopathic medicine, or kind of traditional Western, write the script, take the medicine, as well as a holistic approach. So I'm super excited, and you said yes. And yeah, so there you go. I'm going to be quiet now.
Cool. Hey guys, how are you? How's it going? Yeah, I mean, I made a PowerPoint, but I made a PowerPoint because some of it I'll dive deep into, some of it I won't, or some of it's just kind of conversation. I'll give you access to this kind of more of outline notes of where I'm going with it in the and then of course if you have questions at the end. Um, some of it is a little in depth, so I try to keep it as surfacey as I could. And then some of it's just like you may know already. So it's just like, okay, no big deal. Before I start, let me get in. And I have a PowerPoint more just to kind of keep a flow, but I could talk about, different things. If, change of topics, no problem. It doesn't have to be super formal. It's just more of a, hey, this is what I've got. And then any questions generally for me first?
Yeah, I have a question for you. So what kind of drew you to looking at medicine in this different way and not looking at just the kind of
Just
right?
conventional approach.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that is a good question, and I get that a lot. So the reason what's drawn me into an integrative approach is from my childhood and from my own traumas and from my military traumas that caused me, both situations caused me disability and injury and um, mental health issues. So between PTSD, back injury, and mild TBI, my life was turned upside down, and I had to learn new ways of being better and healthier. And I went from growing from a disability to getting schooled to a doctorate. And I think when my journey of my own wellness, I had to realize that there was no pill, there's no physical therapy, there was nothing that one thing was going to fix it. And there was no one medicine, there was no one doctor that had the answer, there was no right thing. And I just spent the rest of my time between school and my own health figuring it out and working on it and still working on it, as I tell people, work in progress, because I just I now obsess over it that other people have to know that there's other options for them. Like we're just talking today about a psychedelic medication to help for trauma informed. Like there are other things that people need to get them better, whatever it is for them. So for me, it became like a necessity. Cool. Yeah, so
Great.
that's kind of my gist of that one.
Excellent.
And then PowerPoint wise, can you guys see my can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
This one over here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. So I will send you guys over that. I always start with centering. So I will send you over this link, but I usually start something with like a meditation or a breath work of such. I did put in the PowerPoint, one of my meditations that you can get online. It's a serenity meditation. If you'd like me to, we can go over that, or you can listen to it later. What do you think?
Maybe we could just, I don't know, what do you guys want to do? We could either just start and maybe end with that.
Yeah,
That might be a nice way
that's
to
fine.
close.
Sure. Or they can take it at your own discretion. You can do that. But overall, just take a couple breaths. No big deal. We're here to kind of just discuss some information. It's meant.
And you guys can also enter in the chat.
Oh yeah,
And
and you guys can
if you have questions.
interject with me at any time. It's no problem. This isn't like, pretty informal. Mm. So here is general objectives. Can you guys see the overall here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to talk about this as I was talking to Jessica and we were like, oh, what do you want to talk about? And she's like, all right, let's get into it. And then I started making my objectives and my research, and I was like, oh, and then I probably could have done another page. I'm like, okay, we can't do this in an hour. So, but I'm going to try to give you an overview of what I can kind of get into and dive into. So overall, hormone pathways and steroidic pathway, what the perimenopause, menopause transitions, and then kind of get into that. And you guys can read that, but we'll kind of go into it. All right. So when you're talking about hormones and you're talking about the long and short of it, it's complex. Okay. But the backbone of menopause and backbone of all hormones is actually cholesterol. Most women and us are, we are focused on the estrogen aspect. So we look at estradiol. But the earlier stages of hormones is cholesterol, progesterone, cortisone. So the long and short of it is when you're given too much of something, you have side effects. When you're given too little of something, your body goes out of whack. So it's like the importance of trying to balance it through the years, whether it's because as soon as you're born with a certain amount and it grows and progresses. But the most important part I think I like to tell people is cholesterol is actually the backbone of all of this. And estrogen becomes kind of like the foundation for our hormonal pathways. And it's like they kind of all interconnect. So when you guys may know, menopause, it starts around 38. I'm going to say 35. This all depends upon each person. This depends upon history, premenopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal. This is just by the general thought, 38 to 60 plus. And I can only imagine these are just some symptoms of what textbook says and what others say. Can you imagine irregular periods? I think the first year could be considered peri. It's 1 year full. In that 38 to 48 perimenopausal. To be full menopausal, it's over a year. So I think if you're under a year of irregular, they're considering that peri. Pre is just having some of these symptoms. So symptoms of like sleep disturbances, hot flashes, mood changes, vaginal dryness, decreased fertility, bone loss, cholesterol levels being elevated. And then you'll understand that because when I talked before, your cholesterol is the backbone of your whole thing. So if you have an elevation because your hormones are off, and so they're going to be either really high or really low. I don't know. Does anyone have any number one in their transition of that they've had so far for perimenopause or menopause so far for them? What's been their number one symptom?
Mine has been lately our irregular periods.
More
And
than a
then
couple
now
months?
I can add, good Lord, sleep disturbances, hot flashes, and mood changes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it starts at 35 women. Isn't that great? Isn't that great that we're women and we start at 35?
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
I think for me, it's mood changes. Like I'm having a hard time with that. Just not having control over it.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I can relate to. And it just
For
goes up
me-
and down. And the worst part about it is that like everyone will immediately say you have depression, anxiety, you're bipolar, or you're off, or you're whatever, right? And they're like, "What the hell's wrong with you? You're crazy." And you go, "Maybe I'm really not." You know what I mean? I mean, there are those that are textbook probably mental health stuff, but like really, majority of the time, a lot of mental health issues is because, get this, your hormones. So it comes down to your stress, comes down to thyroid and hormones. So majority and gut health, which we'll get into. Majority of illnesses are not there. It's so more complex, right? So it comes down to really understanding what's the underlying cause. If I just gave you one thing to fix the irregular period, well, the sleep disturbance, if I just said, hey, let's just have an Ambien because I think you're not sleeping well. And I'm not really looking at, well, it could be hormone, could be thyroid, could be overall stress. What's going on? And if I don't look at that big picture or what you're telling me, or I don't look at your hormone levels, or I don't look at the acidity in your stomach, or your overall trauma, I've not done my job. So I think also know that you're not alone. That's a big one. So there are many types of estrogen. I don't know if you guys are aware of, and then there's also many types of synthetic estrogen. So like There's overall, there's estrogen 1, and that's what most people are aware of and they know about. And that's produced after actually menopause. And, but it's actually stored in adipose tissue and adrenals. And in estradiol, which everyone knows about because that comes from the ovaries, it also comes from the adrenals and the placental. So like the placenta from pregnancy. So when pregnant women, they also like they say, oh, their hormones are off. You know, that's how you feel like really great. Well, I don't know if everybody feels great pregnant. I don't want to say I felt great pregnant, but there is a hormonal change with pregnancy. If you've had children, that will give you a little bit of a high and then and then a big low too. So and it's because of that in the after conceiving.
I just want to say adipose tissue is fat.
Oh, sorry. Adipose tissue is fat. Yes, I can explain further if any questions, please come up. The high estrogen levels, what some people say, I have really, so then people will come in and say, I will go, or you will tell someone, I don't know, maybe my levels are high or maybe they're low. With people with high estrogen, like an average person that comes with this is usually they have more obesity. They have a BMI, which is the body mass index, a little bit more increased. They have more inflammatory response, aromatase activity, and that has to do with the hormones. So that when I'm looking at like a hormone panel, or I'm looking at this, it's called the pathway that I showed you before. When I'm looking at that cholesterol steroid panel, I'm looking at certain enzymes and how they react. And sometimes people will have caffeine and gut dysbiosis, and we'll go more into that. Now, most people think they have low estrogen. Okay. Now, surprisingly, I'm not saying that people don't, but surprisingly, most people actually don't have it. It's not really that low. Okay. There's other factors, but estrogen helps because it is a foundational component in the hormone pathway. So it helps, it feels good. And as we've talked to, and you guys are all of you on or have taken estrogen before?
We have a mixed group. Like some people don't do any hormones. Then there's me who's like just wants to cover myself in hormonal patches. So it's a real mixed group.
Okay.
I'm
And
on
there's-
that
and there's-
hormonal. Oh, sorry, I was just saying, like, I am in the bring it on hormonal extravaganza. I will take whatever I can get.
Leslie and I will we're stickers. We're going to be stickers for Halloween.
So that, there's no right or wrong to that. It's all about being safe. Okay. So my integrated approach, and you'll hear me, is all about what is good for that person and what is the right thing. So if Jessica needs to be on hormone patches because she feels good and she doesn't want to take 5 supplements and she doesn't want to change XYZ, or life is really stressful for her, she's got to just take that patch. Right. So it really depends upon what's going on in people's, thing. Some people are just good with a cream, like one cream, and it's fixed it. Who knows? Or some people are like good with some herbs, or they've worked on their nutritional thing, and that might have been a factor. Now I have here brain biogenics. Now that's a little bit more complex, but it's talking about mitochondria and how our body is making energy. And with a lot of menopausal and low estrogen individuals, their mitochondria or their energy becomes low. And that is a combination of glucose energy and also the genetics of the mitochondria that we are given. The only positive on that is, though, we have the ability to adjust it. Same thing with, they call it metabolic shifting, is in our estrogen and in our life and our hormones, we have a chance of changing it by changing our diets. Hormone replacements can be used, decreasing alcohol and such of that nature. Now, have you guys heard of the gut and the brain and how it is related to estrogen? Has anyone ever talked to you about it? Or I had a question a lot about, is there a connection and why?
Yes, I have heard of it. I actually have done a lot of lacto fermented goodness. In fact, I have some carrots that I lacto ferment and have a
nice.
couple with every meal, and try to actually have a piece of, oh God, what is it? What's that prebiotic food? Jicama
Oh, jicama for or a
before
resistant starch.
before I start eating as a
Okay.
prebiotic.
Okay.
But when I am stressed, I will just eat a bag of potato chips
Of
and
course.
lose my damn mind.
It's okay.
And this is,
Yes.
by the way.
The story of our life. I mean,
Oh,
it's okay.
Daphne, I had the tiger, my friend. You and me.
It's just not a good scene when it, yeah.
Yeah, when you just you're like, oh, that's what I
Yeah.
know. Now, why is it like that? There's a couple of reasons, right? So, yes, the jicama and the prebiotic will work, but why does it not always work? And
Tell
it doesn't
me.
always what?
I was just saying, tell me. This is exactly, I was like, yes, I'm just very excited. That's all I'll say.
Oh, so it doesn't always work because our body, as I talked about before, I say adrenals, but really I mean the stress factor, stress response, which really comes in from the hypothalamus. So I say gut health brain axis, but really it comes down from it comes from the brain. So brain, we talk about hypothalamus, and we'll talk pituitary system, and we talk about the limbic system. And the limbic system is the initial, hey, what's going on? Something's wrong. The hypothalamus, pituitary, and the thyroid areas we're talking about are general hormones, and that's excreted, which then will be excreting the estrogen at some point, which still excretes, as I talked previous, it actually is excreting cholesterol, but eventually will turn into estrogen. The problem is not really a problem, but our brains are connected to the gut. And when we want to eat in those stressful times, even though, yes, we should do the prebiotic, our body is altered because our gut biome and our brain stressors are on fire. So no matter what willpower we have, we forget or they're turned off because we have not addressed the real problem. So part of it is the estrogen will help, right? The other part of the equation is we were talking trauma informed. There's high stressors in the life. There's intuition. The really cool thing about the gut and hormones is that you guys, I don't know if all of you are moms or family, there is a gut intuition and it exists and it is real and it is for sure part of it. Like you're going to go get the bag of potato chips, but when your messaging or your intuition may come in, and if your stressors were less, you wouldn't get the bag of potato chips. Imagine it like your body has been in severe fight or flight because it's high stressed. It has then caused your digestive system to shut down. Because when you're in fight or flight, you do not digest anymore. You do not rest. You do not hang out. You are trying to feed the animal. And what do you want? Potato chips. What do you want? Food that feels good to give you energy to get the F out of wherever you're going. And that is just like a quick way of saying it, but it's not just potato chips. I'm just saying your body is in this state that needs to feed the energy that it needs to get the heck, as if you were in an old primitive state. So that's long story short, your body's messaging away to do that. So that's somewhat of the reason why your willpower is not always working. So until you really, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off in your thought.
No, you're good.
It just brings me to think about polyvagal theory. So in polyvagal theory, and I think we've talked a little bit about this in this group, but in polyvagal theory, if you do the work with Deb Dana, like one of the trainings, who's like the big polyvagal person, one of the things that you do is, everyone know what I'm talking about when I say polyvagal? I don't know. I can't see if you're nodding or not nodding or giving me the finger. I can't tell. But anyway, so polyvagal theory is this whole idea of how the nervous system works in the body, and you have these three places, and ventral vagal is when things are in flow and working well, and it's the next thing and it's the next thing and everything is working out. Sympathetic, which I'm sure everybody's really familiar with, is that fight, flight, or freeze, fawn. And then dorsal is fuck it, cover yourself with a blanket, just hide. But when you're doing that work and you're kind of identifying what those feel like, one of the things that you do is you list what are the foods you would eat. Like, what are the foods that bring you to that space? So I just wanted to say that because it's like, that is part of the exercise too, because ventral vagal might be like, oh my God, you have all these gorgeous fruits and vegetables.
It's
And
beautiful. That's
you
like
know,
the time when you're eating perfect.
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
perfect
yeah, like,
smoothie.
yeah.
I mean, so it's understanding this all comes down. I didn't even go into the autonomic nervous system really. I'm doing a quick overview. But yes, that's a complete truth. But yeah, the what you're eating is when your body's in these states. Now, don't get me wrong, the estrogen is a factor in that, but it is not really the full factor. The estrogen kind of is like not the masker, but it just makes you feel good and it's the extra. But these other parts of the equation, when you start looking into the entrant, like they call it enteric messaging within the gut, you start looking at the emotions, then identifying your stressors, identifying previous things, those things will change it. And then addition to that, looking at where you previously came up, like what was your life before? Were you a C-section? Were you vaginal? Did you eat well? Did you eat like crap? Do you do probiotics? Do you not? On a regular basis, what's your life food on a base? So when you start to look at your cells and how they grow up and how you've lived, are you treating yourself well? Because every time you eat crap, you're gonna feel like crap. Every time you don't take care of yourself, the estrogen or hormonal replacement will help, but it's still not looking at what is my big picture? Is my trauma still sitting in my joints? Is my trauma still sitting in my stomach? Or am I just like stuck? Have I not looked at that stuff? So for me as a provider of looking at underlying and integrative things, that is the gut of it, literally and figuratively. Now, things that can help or signal why your gut isn't working and why it's kind of related to estrogen. It still kind of comes back to estrogen, but it's just a little, discombobulated as people might think. Things that happen, people will say they have dyspepsia, which is like upset stomach, burping, heartburn, belching, bloating, high fat, too much alcohol, constipation. Constipation can actually be not enough fiber, not enough magnesium, pelvic floor dysfunction, especially for us women. Like we don't even talk about that. You probably talk about that a ton, Jeff. A ton. Yeah. And why do we have diarrhea? Things of that nature. A big part of the hormonal and the gut is like until we work on the nervous system and until we work on our overall response of previous things, a lot of the gut health can't be fixed. So it's kind of like I can give you a probiotic, but you're filling up a tub by giving some probiotics. You're like, oh, that's great. But then the drain hole is open and all of that good stuff that you took, that smoothie and the probiotic, is not going to work because there's an opening because we didn't seal up or patch up the real underlying cause. Does that help a little? I don't know if that making sense. If I'm going a little overboard, you guys interject at any time.
So you got a comment that said makes so much sense.
It does. Okay. Cool. All right. So now let's go into this like big thing that's come up by some nutritionists and it's been in the news recently. It's called estrobolome. Okay. Now, the long and short, quick way of saying this is that estrogen and gut bacteria, all gut bacteria, like digests and they burp and they kind of pass like these things. And it's called metabolites. All right. That's the long and short of it. You want in your body butyrate, you want in your body a nice balanced hydrochloric acids, you want these Well, estrogen has estroblome, and estroblome will give you, it's the best way of saying it's the nice homeo perfect world in the gut. So when you're in estroblome, the metabolite is in that, is secreted. That means your gut is perfect in the estrogen level and you're great. Now people are like, oh my God, I have that. I'm going to get there. Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot more involved there. There's a lot more to it. The fermented foods, like you were saying, jicama, sauerkraut, all work. You want to increase the short fatty chains. I'm not going to go into that, but basically fermented foods increase prebiotics and then will help with the stomach and the small intestines to help flow. Now, why does fiber work and help with estrogen? Again, we're building up gut health. So we have to make sure things are flowing. Why do green foods and things of that nature work? Because it's prebiotics and they're pushing things through. Now, that does not always work for everybody because you don't know if people have underlying sensitivities and things. Why is this all related to estrogen? Because it all has to do with balance. All has to do with balance. Magnesium I always put in almost everywhere because everybody needs it. And there's 6 different types of magnesium. So that's a whole other conversation. Now, again, mindfulness. So it's all about the stress, unfortunately. Stress response, understanding your previous things. My main thing that I tell people, instead of worrying about restricting yourself on what foods to eat, instead of restricting on everything, try to obviously eat a little bit less of the processed crap, but maybe more of just like the whole food stuff as much as you can, and maybe put in some sweetness in there instead of just reading every single label. I don't know, keep it as simple as possible if that's able. And that helps you be more in balance. Like when you have like more of a healthier, I don't like people to count calories or necessarily restrict, but when you have a better relationship with food, you have a better relationship with yourself, which then turns in your previous things. Like when you can look at your stuff previously, your relationship with food becomes less of an issue because you have to look at your behaviors and your emotional response. So it's really underlying looking. And some people don't want to always talk about it. Digestion and dysbiosis. So you'll hear this a lot. What is dysbiosis? And that's just kind of meaning there's an abundance and an irregularity in the gut. And how does it still kind of relate to estrogen? Again, still in the gut, right? We're talking.
Hold on one second, Damaris. I have a question actually.
Sure.
About like the bacteria, and I was recently listening to somebody and they were talking about like the acid balance in your stomach.
Yeah.
Right. And they were talking about like drinking baking soda just to see how long it takes you to burp as a way to tell. And it reminds me a lot of like zinc testing, you know, when you take the zinc and then you see, do you taste the metallic? How long does it take, you know, to figure out if you're like where you're at with your zinc? Do you recommend that? Do you recommend like, is there any kind of at home way?
In a way, would that work hypothetically? It could, but the reason, I mean, all it's going to let you know is that your hydrochloric acid is either low or high, right? Or it could also let you know, but the problem is where is there an additional overgrowth of something or undergrowth, or is there something, you know, is there hypertrophic like cells where they call it leaky gut? You know, is there an opening of some? So like down in this bottom part here, there could be a lot of inflammation within the body. So the inflammation can come from stress responses, but the inflammation could come from other things, infections, some sort of foods, parasites they call. I mean, there's all these like faux pas, right? I don't think any of them are perfect, but I think that there's usually some sort of underlying. Does that help?
Yeah. I think
I
it comes down to like you wondering like, okay, I don't know if people are feeling this, but thinking like, okay, how do I figure out what I'm supposed to do next? And I think that the easiest thing to do when we think about the last slide is to think, well, you can do a whole battery of tests, or you can make sure and see what it's like for the next month to primarily eat things that come without a label. I love that idea. That keeps it so simple, right? You
I mean,
eat-
like, and not making the problem is we restrict and we also
Yeah.
overindulge, right? Because there's
Yeah.
an emotional
Yes.
response to both and there's a behavioral response to both. They all feel great. Is either one of them wrong? No, because when you're looking at it, your body, stress wise, behind the door of like the brain wants to feel good or wants to rest. So until we are in balance and understand what our body is, and our body is a machine, it's amazing and it knows how to heal. But when we are not understanding where the disconnect is, we unfortunately, food becomes the part of the culprit.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking as you were saying that, like, oh, I should get tested. And then as Jessica just said, or maybe, just maybe, Daphne, wild idea. Try some non-label foods. Like maybe I don't cut everything out, like alcohol has a label. So sadly, I can't.
Well, I mean,
But-
all right. Am I going to
but I
tell you
mean-
alcohol's good? Not everything, but
But
lot of them.
I could do more non-labely foods, right? Like maybe I could try that first, the natural organic way first before I start jumping into.
It doesn't
I
even
love
have to be
it.
organic. I don't even
Yeah,
care if it's
yeah.
organic. I would love for it to be organic, but like
Right.
real, for real. You want my
Yeah.
real? I just want you to eat some whole food at
Yeah.
some point, or
Like maybe I
figure
could
out
try
how to
that
cook,
first.
or make vegetables taste good. I don't care what you do. If you can put cheese on it,
I love
I
a
just-
vegetable, but this weekend I ate like a raccoon, a dumpster diving raccoon slash like 11-year-old boy who's in swim practice and baseball practice. Like I can't even explain how horribly I ate this weekend.
were you in a lot of stress,
A little bit, not
like post stress?
horrible.
I don't mean in the moment stress.
Yes.
I mean post stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
So
okay.
stress.
True
Yeah.
confession. Our block party was on Saturday and we, were pretty involved in it. I was exhausted Sunday morning. Okay, look, if you judge me, I ordered IHOP for
Oh
delivery.
no,
for
there's nothing to judge.
breakfast.
I like
Nothing
IHOP.
to judge. Good for you.
I like IHOP.
I don't even think I think
No,
this
but did
is
you
the
have
second time in
IHOP
my
after you were
life
like
I've had
hungover?
IHOP.
Did you have IHOP after you're hungover?
I wasn't even completely hungover. I was just so blown out, exhausted, like a little hungover that the thought of making like avocado on toast and an
Okay,
egg
but do you know why your body
in my
did that?
home, I
I'll
couldn't
totally
do
tell you why. Like, so you wanting to go for IHOP after like a hangover. Your body's an amazing freaking machine. Like, so you're going for IHOP because it's high sugar, it's not because you're going for the process. Your body just got hungover, right? Or is alcohol trying to dispense something. I'm talking about the machine part of it. Like, let's not look at it. All right, IHOP's awesome. But you know what I mean? But the high sugar things are amazing on the body because the body's lost energy.
Yeah.
And it's trying to repair. And we're going back to like everything is cholesterol, right? So what tastes good? Fat. What tastes good? Sugar. And what tastes good when you're starting to digest things? Sugar, fat, and things like that. Does it make sense? Yes, but everything has to be done with good intention, or your machine gets like full of, instead of sluggy, like instead of a good oil, you're now sluggish. And it's when it's okay to go for IHOP once in a while, but your body's telling you your livers and your pancreas are shot for an hour or two, and you need water and some fiber, but that sugar is going to hold you over
Yeah.
until you have then retrained it into a balance.
Yeah.
Does that help? So it's not like you going for hangover is the bad thing. It's how much are you indulging or not understanding, like getting yourself back in. Everything comes back to balance in the long run. I'm just trying to give you like
this is incredible. I love looking at it like this. And I just, before I I want to at least make more of an effort to work.
And it's
some of-
okay to have those moments like that.
Yeah.
But when you're understanding your body, I think of it as your body is a machine in the balance and everything comes down to it. Like when I learned my inner self and my strength, literally, figuratively, inner stuff, not that everything is perfect. I still have to worry about weight and back and forth. It's like, I think the machine tells you when you shouldn't. But I
Yeah.
will tell you when it comes to alcohol, the research will tell you, and unfortunately, I know you're not going to hear this part, in perimenopause, from 45, whatever perimenopause is for the individual, usually about a 4 year to 5 year, in that transition time, minimal alcohol.
Hmm.
Now, okay, I know you guys are not going to want to hear that, but this is because the liver and the pancreas take on so much. A lot of gallbladder disease, and individuals get their gallbladders taken out. They shouldn't get their gallbladders taken out. They're just overworked, and their pancreas is overworked, which then causes insulin resistance, which then causes more problems with metabolic syndrome. I'm not going into metabolic syndrome today, but the long and short of that is that in the time of when you have excess of alcohol, if
Yeah.
you can you at least do more of the clearer, less sugary alcohol?
Oh yeah, and honestly, for
This is
me,
me just general.
especially now,
There's nothing wrong to drink. I'm just
oh
giving
no,
you
I know, but honestly, I'm more of like an edible
marijuana.
marijuana indulger now. Like that's really more my thing.
Nice.
It's just, I don't wake up with a hangover. The only thing I really have to watch is the eating. Like I really have to watch that.
And that's just because it turns the satiety off. But you can get cannabis, and Jessica can definitely tell you about the different types of cannabis that will
Yeah.
lower the satiety, like so you don't you can still keep your
Yeah.
appetite.
There's one in particular I've learned to stay away from because it's like, good God. I just go through the kitchen
I'm
like
not a specialist
tornado.
in that area, but Jessica can definitely tell you the different strains and which
Yeah.
ones are better. But I know that there are ones that can suppress your appetite and better than weight management medication.
Oh.
I know there's a couple. I'm not as in tune on all of them. But that is kind of the gist of estroblome. It's basically saying balance. They call it the Goldilocks effects because you're trying to be in this perfect balance of estrogen. Majority of the time you're not. I wish to tell you, like you're gonna hear all this research and people are like, eat this green food, do this prebiotic. Unfortunately, every single person's different, but majority, if you do lifestyle medicine, basic stuff, drink a little bit more water. You take basic fiber stuff on a daily. You got to move. I don't care what you do, whether it's walking, real exercise, or more stuff. And then you got to kind of also not move, meaning not sit and watch TV and veg out, but something where you're kind of relaxed. You kind of, maybe have a cup of tea, something where you're shutting off your mind, but not numbing your mind. You're kind of just sitting. The addition to this is digestion. So, with estrogen and just with hormones in general, your enzymes they start from the mouth and they go all the way to the butt. And the small intestines, the pancreas, and the liver have a boatload of enzymes that are needed to help you digest properly. And we get them from foods, and sometimes we don't do things well. Like a big one that people don't absorb well is lactose. So most people are usually dairy allergies. Most people also have, this is where I usually almost top 3 tests are, GI stool testing, food sensitivity testing, and then checking people's enzymes, general, like where they're maybe off. You'll hear a lot about the SIBO or small intestinal bowel overgrowth. I don't know if I necessarily think all of that is true. I think some of it is and some of it is a little hyped. But I think that some of it is worth it to understand. And the reason you want to know about what's going on in your stomach. So in the body, if this is a basic anatomy lesson on, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. In the small intestines, these enzymes that I've listed on here, lipase, amylase, phospholipase, insulin, all of these are necessary to help regulate with digestion. And the reason I want you to understand the lipase insulin meaning majority of the time we have too much sugar. So our body is not regulating the sugar because they say it's an overgrowth of SIBO. It's because we're just not, our gut biome is just off. It isn't just because it's an overgrowth. It doesn't really make sense because partially doesn't make sense. You with me, Jess, on that?
I actually had a conversation with a gastroenterologist, and I was like, because I was like, all these people can't have SIBO. It just
No,
can't
they don't
be.
all have
It
SIBO.
just can't be, because I feel like Gwyneth Paltrow.
They don't. They have insulin
gonna-
resistance.
It's
They have
gonna,
insulin resistance.
yeah, she's gonna make a candle called "Smell My SIBO."
Everyone
So-
thinks it's SIBO, and it's because
Yeah.
they're metabolic syndrome. They're insulin resistant. And why? Because the small intestines makes insulin. It doesn't make insulin, pancreas, but it has enzymes within the you know what I mean? So it's like the pancreas, if it's not working, your small
Yeah.
intestines are shot too.
Yeah.
So I hope I haven't confused you guys yet. Please tell me in chat if I have. I apologize. I will go over this again.
Sorry I'm late, but this is really interesting.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So the big thing is I tried as best as I can to try to bring things that are complex and trying to bring it as simply as I can, because
Maybe you've covered this before, but when you say the thing about needing insulin or enzymes, have you told people like what that means, like what they need to take or eat or do to help that?
So some of it is there's actual herbs and supplements that you can take real easy. And then some a lot of it can be food based, but there's actually some great multivitamins now that have it in available, good one, that are able to, and then there's also some digestive enzyme supplements that you can take even over the counter that are good quality. And there are some so this is where that prebiotic part comes in. Some prebiotic foods are very effective, not probiotic, prebiotic foods, meaning more resistant starch, more quality. Those will increase your enzymes. Now, what also increases your enzymes? Get this, people don't really talk about it right. It's called eating hygiene. Do you eat properly? So not only eating less of the sugars and less of the processed stuff, understanding your stress responses, but are you eating right? Meaning, can you eat around 20 bites per piece of food? Most people don't, but that's to help because the body takes about 20 minutes to actually produce some of these enzymes within the body. So if you're just shoving food down or you're picking up a burrito, packaged whatever, because that's the quickest thing, and you ate it on the go and you didn't even take 5 minutes to sit with that food, don't expect it to come out the other way well, or it'll just be sitting in there. So it's because your body has not had enough time to adjust and build up that time. So the reason chewing is so important, or people do like oil pulling, well, they'll use coconut oil and they'll start, moving around, is it stimulates those enzymes and it stimulates the body to kind of get like you'll get that, like, I don't know if you ever smell something and you get that like feeling, that's part of the enzyme factor and digestion. And some of these will happen, and some of them won't. So when they talk about also sleep hygiene, or no, instead of sleep hygiene, eating hygiene, you want to drink water, but you don't want to drink water in the midst of a meal. Now, this one's kind of has some mixed theory, but you don't want to have too much water right before the meal. You want to wait. You want to do about 20 minutes prior. And this all has to do with enzymes. So when I said 20 minutes, I mean it because it takes about 20 minutes for enzymes to kind of produce, I'd say about 20 minutes, maybe like 10 or 15, I think, from their research. So the reason you don't want to have too much water, there's two parts to that. Enzymes don't produce as quickly. It does let you be full. Hold on. It helps you like you're like full, but if you can do the water about 20 minutes prior, I say 20 minutes, it's give or take about 10 minutes or something like that. Your body will at least feel a slight full. Then you eat, you chew properly around 20 to 30 bites. You actually sit with one food at a time. You don't have the TV on. You're in that mindful moment of the food time, which this is just eating hygiene. These parts are the way we ate back when we were cave people. So it was just food. There was no other distractions in life. I'm just saying this is what our body was made to do, not what we do now. And if you did all of those things, your body would be developing it and digesting well. That's kind of that on that end. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions on that part? No? Okay.
This is all so interesting and helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And
I'm
I'm
hoping
loving
that
it.
I'm hoping I'm making sense, or I'm giving you some sort of understanding of like how things are.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right. So what are underlying causes to dysbiosis and gut health? As I was talking before quickly, it's metabolic syndrome, and that long and short is insulin resistance. And the body is accumulated excess insulin from the pancreas and from the digestive enzymes. And that it's then in turn, because we're talking about why is it excess? It's excess because one, maybe you ate too much sugar, but two, your body doesn't know how to get rid of it properly because the pancreas isn't working right. The liver's not working right. The intestines aren't working right. So it is all interconnected. And then if you don't have things working right, do you expect it to be feeling good? You're going to have brain fog. Do you expect to have a good mood? No, you're not. Like, so when you're moody or your hormones are off, it's probably because something's off altogether, not just one thing. Sleep. So sleep is a big factor. Now, I say eating hygiene and then I talk sleep hygiene. I could talk about sleep and a whole conversation, an hour on that. Sleep is one of the most important hormone regulators in the body. I will say that over and over again. If you do not eat well, if you do not sleep well, 6 to 8 hours, give or take, at least quality 6 hours. And I mean quality. If with estrogen, you'll notice, or menopause, as people will either not be able to go to bed, like they can't fall asleep, or they'll go to sleep and they'll wake up around 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Why is it happening? Two parts. Yes, it's cortisol, the 3 o'clock in the morning if you wake up, but it's also anxiety driven. Those that go to sleep, it's probably because their previous work is still piled up, or their stressors from the day either has not exhausted them enough, or it has caused them more mental, stressors to not help them fall asleep. So your sleep hygiene routine is a must. Those are little things that you can do with, I don't know if all of you do them, but it's little things like you don't put look at your TV or your phone about 20 minutes before bed. Maybe you do a guided meditation. Maybe you put a dark shade. So in every single room in my house, I have dark shades. Everything is out dark at night. You live in a circadian rhythm. So I talk a lot, and this is what I've learned from my expert mentors. Your life is called, our bodies were made for prehistoric times, and they thought we were, and our cells and the way that our growth is by circadian rhythm. So you should truly be eating and sleeping during circadian rhythm, meaning you eat when it's light out and you don't eat when it's about to go to bed. So it is dark now. Nobody here should be eating. I'm talking scientifically. Does that, that's the body would prefer you to be in the, and you'll see this even for those that have the 24-hour light, live in light most of the time. They conserve their food. And those that live in darker areas, they conserve their food, their intakes are different. And your digestion will be different. So if you just alone sleep wise slept during the dark time and woke up at least a 6-hour period, that would help you and regulate your hormones. If you ate in that period of time, that would help and regulate your hormones. These are just small things. I mean, there's other parts of the sleep hygiene, but that's just kind of my quick view. But basically dark, and then you have to kind of address where you are going to bed, waking up, what's going on there.
Um, quick question. I rely on for the past 2 years, CBD, gummies to help a sister out so I can actually sleep without waking up. I still wake up for a moment,
Okay.
but I'm at least getting like 8, you know,
It's great.
razzmatazz. Is that's still considered good sleep, right? That's
Yeah.
okay.
So with an assisted, medical assisted kind of, the better thing with CBD versus like Lunesta, Ambien, the better option is a CBD or THC
Yes,
realm.
and that's why I've been doing that as opposed to those other things.
Right. The reason those are worse is the side effects of those medications are significantly worse and will cause other things. And the benefit, at least with the CBD, yes, you're taking another type of herb or medication. The long-term effects, because of the lower dosage, is less of an issue for you.
Yes, I mean,
And it will
honestly,
also, and then you look at the whole thing too. So Lunesta, Ambien will address you falling asleep and may just trigger the mechanism of action. But when you're looking at CBD and THC, there's so many mechanisms of action and what it can do for the body in a positive way. Majority, when you're doing it safely. I'm not talking about recreationally crazy, but you're then trying to turn off the sleep, right? You're trying to get yourself so it increases melatonin. CBD will do that, and it will increase the melatonin levels, which then is also a hormone, which then will also help balance. It's a little bit more complex, but that is a benefit of CBD versus the other medications.
totally. And that's absolutely my jam. And it has literally saved me from killing someone because I was not able to sleep for like 2 years without my
Yeah, those
beloved.
are options. CBD is one. High dose magnesium, high dose tart cherry, melatonin, but melatonin with magnesium, the right magnesium levels. Like those are useful if you don't want to do CBD or marijuana.
I just wanted to say something about melatonin though. I actually have stopped my patients from taking melatonin.
That's why the melatonin, I don't always talk about melatonin.
Yeah.
I don't ask, and I agree with you, because what happens is you turn off the brain. So just like anything else, if you start taking something on a regular, and your body should learn to get the right melatonin levels. If you take too much of it, your body's brain access, like that trigger, will turn off.
I think in reaction to that, I think that what also happens is that the pituitary is affected by it, and therefore the other hormone systems are screwed up too.
Hypothalamus pituitary axis.
Yeah. So I think that the whole axis.
Oh, there's a whole other. So yeah, melatonin's a little
yeah.
complicated. I don't usually recommend melatonin. So
I've stopped. I've stopped. I mean, even my kids were on it at one point. No more.
So I don't recommend. I would recommend CBD over melatonin.
Yeah.
I would
I
recommend.
drug my children. No, just kidding. This is like I don't actually.
Oh no, kids do melatonin. No, but I'm saying no, kids can do CBD. CBD is very safe for children.
Yeah.
For like an age appropriate.
Yeah.
And what's needed, totally appropriate.
Yeah.
Is there a magnesium dose that we should be having, or should we assume that we get enough?
Around 450 milligrams. I do up to 1,000 if I need it, but there's 6 different types of magnesium. Okay, so there's one magnesium to help you poop. There's one name. There's different types of magnesium, and I could write maybe I'll give you a little slide on that for another
And
time.
I
where-
like I want to say something about magnesium that is everyone knows, or a lot of people know that I am basically have the constitution of a toddler when it comes to anything, right? Like I take something and it's like the strongest thing. I personally cannot take a full dose of magnesium.
everyone's
Cannot do
different.
it. I cannot do it, not at all. If I do, I'm talking if I take 350 of magnesium citrate, which is natural calm, you can buy natural calm, I cannot function the next day.
Wait, natural calm sleeping or natural like you're going to the bathroom or what?
No, sleepy. I
Oh,
cannot
so you cannot
function.
take the sleep. So let's go back. Natural calm sleep has GABA in it.
No, regular natural calm, not the sleep one, just
Oh,
the
just the regular
magnesium
calm.
citrate. Yeah, magnesium citrate. I can't even do the gummy, the kids gummy, one gummy. I cannot do it, cannot function the next day.
Function, you're
Yeah.
exhausted.
I just want to just sleep.
Okay, that means you're super lacking in it.
Well, there you go. So now I got to take 5 million and I'll just like sleep for 5 days and crap my brains out,
Yeah, so
which is
you're probably
fine.
really lacking in it, but also too, your fiber is probably your fiber and your hydration is probably off.
It is definitely because I am a sleep protester like a toddler, number one. And number two, Daphne, I ate a dairy-free, gluten-free chocolate cake at 1 a.m. yesterday.
Well, you know,
That's awesome.
yeah, I can.
While I wrote a blog post. So I was working and eating.
And it was dairy free and gluten free. So you gotta
Yeah,
give
yeah.
Oh my
I-
God, don't even get me started.
Wait,
So
wait,
my
and
whole-
wait, and it did have edible orchids on it.
all right.
That's
So
sounds
I-
delicious.
So there you go. The orchids are not tasty at all. But you know, I was like, it doesn't have a label.
no label.
No label on that one. Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at it like, yeah. So anytime someone tells you it's dairy free, gluten free, whatever, vegan, doesn't mean it's healthy. So that's a.
Oh
usually
no,
what
it's
comes in
total crap, expensive crap, and
majority of the time.
one period.
I don't have to go into much. I mean, I can go to a couple more parts. Let me just give maybe a little bit of overview on some of this more stuff is a little bit more complex. You could take MCT oil. That's a helpful. And that is, why does it work? All comes down to the cellular level, the lipoprotein levels of the cell. It does work. It has been proven for many helpful aspects. They call it biohacking, and it's part of the biohacking techniques. The reason it works, think about the body as a machine. When you oil it up and you give it the right oil, it will do well. Now, when you're giving yourself excess of something and it's the wrong cholesterol, you're gonna have high cholesterol in a bad way. All cholesterol is not bad. It's the backbone to all of our hormones. So we have to understand how much we're getting and what we're doing.
So the MCT stands for medium chain.
Medium chain triglyceride.
Yeah.
And you
But-
can get it from coconut oil.
And the interesting thing with taking in cholesterol, they're finding right now, is that it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to raise
It's not going to
your
raise it's not gonna raise
cholesterol. So like lick the shrimp and eat the coconut oil.
So it's not going to raise it, but the trans fats would, like
Yeah.
the hydrogenated, like the crap oils will.
Yeah.
The not crap oils may not. But the I mean, it all comes down to like the cell needs the fat, but it's hardening for a couple of reasons. This is not having to do with this lecture, but when you're talking about like atherosclerosis or people getting clogged arteries,
Mhm.
you're not just getting that because the high cholesterol, you're getting that because the hardening of those vessels, and they're hardening because they're not lubed. They don't have the cholesterol surrounding those layers. And so they're hardening because they're drying out, and they're hardening because they don't have enough potassium. another part of the cellular level, when we get back down to the machine part of it, is that there's a sodium potassium pump, and it doesn't have, we eat too much salt, and the salt is taken out of the cell and not enough potassium is sucked out, and it's drying. So it just keeps drying. So it's like, when you put salt in something and it dries, your cells are also drying. And as you age, it happens, but you can do circulatory work. There are certain things you can do to help alleviate some of that. Isometric exercising. The stress response comes into this again because cholesterol is a backbone. And so the long and short of that, that's a quick lesson on that.
Yeah, that's really super helpful, I think.
Okay. That's my quick lesson on the isometric, on the blood pressure can be lowered for many ways, not just because, that's another conversation, but we can do a whole nother topic on blood pressure.
Well, let me just say something really quickly about menopause and perimenopause and this whole change, and going back to your whole this foundational idea of estrogen being the foundation and cholesterol being the backbone. We know that when you're going through that transition, one doctor, Barbara Taylor, talks about, like, when you hit menopause, so day 366 and beyond, the body goes through this rapid aging, let's just say, right, of drying and all of a sudden the cholesterol is out of control and your blood pressure is out of control.
And
and
why? And why?
Yeah.
How do you see it?
And so it really absolutely makes sense. So one way, me and like being Apache, not Apache, like meaning using a patch. Like, like that's what I meant. Using a patch, meaning like a, I don't know, like a, I don't know, whatever, like a roller derby girl. That's what I meant. But like, using a patch, I believe that sometimes to get to that place where you're eating foods without labels, taking extra care with fiber, sleep, food, eating hygiene, meal hygiene, all of these things, sometimes taking the patch, putting the patch on becomes that step you need, that boost you need to support you to make those changes, right? It's
And
this
it's
almost
totally
immediate.
okay. But it's
Yeah.
like learning that that's where your imbalance is, and
Yeah.
understanding, instead of being like, oh, if I don't take that, or oh my God, I don't have to take it. There is nothing wrong with taking hormone replacement when it's done safely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
understanding that there are the other parts of the equation: thyroid, stressors, life stuff, other. But if you need one part of it to add the patch or whatever it is to at least get you to some sort of starting into the balance, then you need that.
Yeah, it just takes, my whole thing with the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, my whole thing with everything that I do is this idea of taking the pressure off, right? And it's kind of like that, and you were speaking to that earlier, and you're like, I'm not saying get organic. Organic's lovely, but who cares? Because there is all that thing, like, do you have to get this particular type of fish?
I get
Eat the
frustrated.
fish.
Okay,
Eat
it's
the fish.
wonderful. All right, I want you to eat organic. I want you to eat not farm raised. All of
Yeah.
that is awesome. Let's be real. Can you wash your fruit? Wash your fruit, clean it off.
Yeah.
Can
yeah.
you eat it?
Yeah. And the prices of food, and the
What?
price of food is ridiculous.
Right. So
So-
what there's like a, now can I get and be like real particular about certain things? Yes, I can tell you there's toxins and things, and there's environmental pressures, and there's parasites, and there's metals and everything. I can tell you all that. There's all that shit in there. Okay. Everything's got metal, everything's got environmental toxins, everything is parasites, everything. You are exposed to all of these things. Now, let's be real. What can you do to avoid some of them? Let's try to avoid a couple of them, or
Mhm.
some of them in your life. All right, don't eat like tuna every single day. All right, okay, maybe that. Let's try to not as much packaged stuff. All right, let's have at least one piece of fruit. Get out in the sun and sit in the sun for me. let's write in a journal or relax. Let's sit in a room, in a dark room, and just feel like dark. It sometimes it's the simpler stuff, but the simpler stuff means we have to sit with ourselves.
Yeah.
So for me, like my years of own health journey and then getting to this point, it was like, oh wow, it's more the simple crap. And that's why I'm like, oh, mindful way. That's why for me, I'm always like, it's a mindful way every day. Because if I don't do the mindful stuff, none of the other stuff will help my health.
Do you mind going back to that one list where you had the chicken soup and salmon and lentils and dinner for
sure,
breakfast
yeah.
and all that?
Oh, this one, the best. Oh, the good foods. Oh, yeah, those are just ideas. But yeah. Okay. So this one I got. You'll always hear about chicken soup's good, lentils, salmon. Those are like in the top, like anything in the Mediterranean range. So for me, I'm not a vegan. I'm full disclosure. I'm not a vegetarian. But I basically, if it's majority of mine is like a Mediterranean diet. And I've found research. I don't do this, but I do it sometimes. I've had chicken broth in my oatmeal. People do dinner for breakfast, and they do a larger lunch and a lighter dinner. And this all comes down to what I was talking about with digestion. Digestion is all about trying to do it within the light hours. It also has to do with when I didn't get into this, but when you're digesting, you want to stop eating about 2 to 3 hours before bed. So that 1 o'clock in the morning cake, or that, and you also want to stop. You also don't want to eat an hour before. You want to wait about an hour after waking up. So you wake up at 6. You want to at least wait an hour to eat. Meaning you could have liquids, not sugary, but you try to just like water and teas or coffee for at least an hour. This all comes down to digestion and your body kind of getting through. You really should just do water because your body is dehydrated from the night before. The night of, you really want to do 2 to 3 hours prior. So if you're going to bed at 10, stop eating at 7. I know that it's not normal. I'm just telling you what your body wants. This is just what it likes. It doesn't mean that you like it. It just means what is the ideal. And so that's why I talk about the Mediterranean, lower sugar. Magnesium is usually pretty big.
What's black cohosh?
Okay, that is an herb. So these ones down here, black cohosh, Siberian rhubarb, red clover, non-soy, and so no soy, non-GMO. We would always like it to be non-GMO. I would love for things to be non-GMO and organic. That'd be great. That means not genetically modified. So if you're doing vegan and you tell me you're going to have a Beyond Burger, that's just absolute crap. That stuff is horrible for you. Beyond Burger, like anything that you're modifying in some way, it's probably bad for you. But the black cohosh, Siberian rhubarb, and red clover and sage are natural ways for estrogen, for helping with balancing estrogen.
The one thing I'll say about the black cohosh, there has been a lot of controversy around that
Oh, has there? Okay. I probably
because of
haven't read about it yet.
because of the liver, like it
Mhm.
really is, it's really metabolized by the liver. But we were talking earlier because I did a deep dive on thinking about over-the-counter supplements, like, and there's a formulation that's used in a lot of different products, and it's called Estro G100, Estromont. And it's in Country Life is one of them, and it's called like Meno Relief. And that actually, I was looking at some of the studies around it. It not only helps with hot flashes, pins and needles, insomnia, nervousness, melancholy, vertigo, fatigue, and rheumatoid pain. So a lot of those things. It doesn't really help with libido, but it seems to be very good, helps with those things. Part of the formulation decreases uterine thickening, right?
But so do you understand why, like, so when we're talking about like how I was talking about the backbone, why would that work? It works because your body's in less stress. right?
Yeah.
So you've given yourself more balance. Maybe you're not getting, so then your body is now using its machine to do that. Is why it's leave eating. Why does it not work with a libido? Libido is circulatory. It probably won't do libido because it's not that you're working more on the stress response, not the circulatory response.
Right. But
The
then you
flow.
could slap in some DHEA maybe in
Oh,
that.
you could. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then like the DHEA, which is again another something you can get, it's something our body makes, but you can purchase that, and that helps to increase your testosterone, which will in turn, and vitamin D is really important to have testosterone increased as well. Anyway, I was looking at that, and one of the hops that's in that formulation, the one that's called Meno Relief, is part of the cannabinoid family as well. So there are some products out there, and in that case, and I was telling Damaris this, because I'm in this place where I probably could go up on the estrogen. Well, apparently my magnesium is shit, and I'm not eating enough fiber. Thank you, Damaris. So I got to work on that. But I was thinking, like, I could either go up on my patch, but there's an upper limit, like how much, there's a point where you can't go up any higher on that patch. I know that eventually I'm going to stop having a period if I go up on my patch and my progesterone. It's just, I just kind of thinking about other ways to support my body and supplement, right? So I did deep dive.
Going back to your stressors and your life
Yeah.
minimal, going back to the minimal stuff, the easy stuff,
Yeah.
which doesn't seem easy to everyone as I'm hearing, getting to that base part, getting to the base stuff when, still keeping where you're at right now. If you're feeling good, you're to start listing the things that, to make in your daily checklist rituals. And
Yeah.
it could be simple stuff. Whether it's just waking up, having a cup of water, then you don't have to journal every day. I'm not telling everybody to do that, but just to having a sitting with yourself, then it's like, okay, I'm going to have a vegetable and I'm going to sit outside in the sun for 10 minutes, like whatever. There's different rituals that I add in. I'm writing on right now, but
Yeah.
those are kind of things. But
Yeah. So it's basically not the cake at 1:30 in the morning when you're sleep protesting and trying to build a business, right? Not the cake.
so
Not the
reason,
cake.
yeah, you want the cake because it feels good. Actually,
Yeah.
when you probably better off a little CBD or a little edible.
Yeah, I do that too.
I hope this was helpful. The last part of this, because I have to cut off soon. I apologize.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. We love this.
Is they call it evolutionary mismatch, and I was talking about that earlier about the caveman, and everything comes down to what our bodies used to do, and it comes down from my mentors have taught me, or what I've been reading in the research and the biohacking and the engineering. Biohacking just means is the biotechnology of our bodies. It's you engineer it and look at it as a machine and figure out how it is. You then can maybe do something to help yourself. But the mismatch part comes down to with menopause is your body is supposed to transition and it's okay. But would you believe back in the day, majority of the prehistoric age didn't always live to menopause. So there was not really an understanding of what this was going to be. And so we live longer. So we're going through this. So our body had to adjust. But we didn't adjust necessarily right. And we didn't really listen to it enough. Some of us do, but when you start listening to the body and to what it needs, is the estrogen's off, the stresses are off, your daily things are not being done, you're overindulging or underindulging, and things are the pathways are not, and our body's not doing what it should be doing. So when back then in the days when we wanted to eat or eat our prey and fight or flight or that high stress, we weren't always in high stress. Then we were able to digest and then sit for days on end, so it's a different way. So that's why they're saying it's like the body is a little off. But on a good note, I can say through the research and from even for myself, I mean, I've had neuroplasticity changes for my body and for my health issues. I had, intermittent right-sided paralysis, and I was, look like a stroke patient on and off. And I would also had to like, intermittent like disability, not be able to speak well. And like so if I could learn or figure out new ways of doing things and my brain was able to change because I gave it the nutrients and the change and the identification of my stressors and I looked into that, I can tell you that it's pretty amazing what, you can do. Now, yes, we're talking hormones, but I'm talking, the big picture. Unfortunately, it's not just hormones.
Unfortunately, I have to scoot right now, but this was amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was just, yes, I definitely needed this, but thank you so much.
You're welcome. No, I know it's late for everybody. I hope I helped a little bit.
Can
And
you
I
go
know-
back to your contact info?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure. My website's Mindfully Intuitive, but Jessica will have everything too. So you're welcome to that.
And you can see patients, you can consult everywhere. But you-
I consult, yeah, and then I have licenses in a few states, yeah. So New York, New Jersey, about 7 states.
All right. So she can see, we have Illinois, New York,
I
and
can consult with you on a local,
California.
if I'm not prescribing to you in your state.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Damaris. I will talk to you soon.
I hope I
this-
helped. I'm sorry I
was
went a
great.
little over. I
No,
apologize.
no.
No, this was great.
Yeah, and they have the recording because they can go ahead and go back to it. But I'm gonna let you go because you got your kid and stuff.
Oh, no problem. It was such a pleasure meeting you guys, and I
Thank
hope you guys
you.
have a good night. Okay.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing,
Bye.
and I'll give you back the PowerPoint for you, and then I have my contact information.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'm going to release more episodes with the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind. And if you are interested in speaking or working with Dr. Damaris, you can contact her at mindfullyintegrative.com. And her Instagram is at mindfullyintegrative. I think she works, is licensed in a few different states, so you don't have to be in New York or New Jersey. I think there's Florida and maybe New York, New Jersey, Florida, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So it's going to be in the show notes. Again, thank you for listening. Any support you can give is greatly appreciated. And by support, it is sharing with other people. It is leaving a 4-star review on, I think, Apple Podcast. We're on all the podcasty platforms. So whatever review you can leave is great. If you have an idea for a show, let me know. Kind comments are always welcome. Anyway, thanks again.